Hello and welcome to this episode of Alwin Schroeder Explained. Today I'm going to be going through etude number 38, Dotzauer's Opus 120, number 8. I've gotten a lot of requests for this one. I made a video of a playthrough many years back, and this has been by far the most requested one to slow it down a little bit, explain what's going on. I think this one tends to show up a lot in all state and region type auditions, so if this is helpful to you, stay tuned. Now, I am playing out of the original edition of this book, so I'm not entirely certain if the newer edition is going to be have any different bowings or fingerings, but I'm going off of the bowings and fingerings that are presented in the one with the orange stripes. My first recommendation to you is to take a moment right now, pause this video if you need to, and write in all of the measure numbers. Now, this doesn't have to be every single measure. Sometimes the easiest way to do that is just to do the beginning of each line, otherwise you sit there for forever. Beginning of each line is sufficient, but in order to know exactly where we are working, instead of every time counting from the beginning to figure out where you are, if you have the measure number at the beginning of the line, it's a lot easier to find your place. All right, with your measures numbered, let's dive right in. Right off the bat, we are in the key of G major. We have one sharp in the key signature. Now, obviously, as you glance through this, you can tell that we're going to be playing a lot more accidentals than what is just showing up in the key signature, but that gives us a good basis for where we are starting. 6/8 time signature. So we are counting eighth notes in groups of 3. You could call this compound duple meter if you want it to be rather fancy. So here we go. Allegro is the marking, starting from the very beginning here, measure 1. The marking is to play at the point. Now, if you look at my video from many moons ago, I didn't really do that. I was a little bit more here. I was just trying to play it practically. You can work the whole thing out here at the point, but it's going to be a lot more work for your arm, and the tempo is not going to be able to be quite the same and maintain the tonal integrity. So honestly, middle of the bow is all right as we get through some of this. So we're going to start off by just kind of outlining the key of G major. We got this nice little grace note to give a little bit of style. We got a little scale down to G. Now we're going to see those two rhythms we present in the first two measures here, pretty much the rhythm for the entire piece. We have the measure that is only eighth notes, and the measure that is eighth, 4/16, eighth, 4/16. So we're going to see this a whole bunch. So pay attention to that rhythm. But the nice thing is, once you've mastered that rhythm, we're in good shape going forward. So going on, measure 3, a little bit more of that introduction. Back down to D. So we're kind of ascending with this idea. We're going back and forth between playing in a very high voice and a very low voice. Watch out for that F sharp. We just played that C natural there. Get that extension forward. Big old D major scale starting on G? Yeah. So we've done a pretty standard maneuver. We've gone to the 5. We started in the key of G. And throughout these first 7 measures or so, we have transitioned, especially with this. When we get to this C sharp in measure 7, we have firmly established that we are no longer in the key of G major, and then especially a strong D major arpeggio landing on a low D. We have transitioned to the key of D major, but only for a brief moment. Only for a brief moment. Moving forward, we have almost the exact same idea as measure 1, except for that key, B flat right there. That is signaling that we are no longer in G major. We're going to, yep, you guessed it, G minor. Confirmed right there with that G minor scale from 5 to 1. The parallel minor of our original G major key. We're going to doodle around here for a minute. Playing with F a little bit. idea where we have a high voice and a low voice, but what I want you to notice about this section is each voice is descending in its own way. We just look at the top, down to C, B flat, all the way down to G. So we played a little bit of a scale in the upper voice, and the same thing in the lower voice, just with a slightly different pattern. So the key to making this music really pop out is having a conversation between those two voices. Don't forget the last one there. And then we're on to some kind of final statement material. Oh, I love this one right here. Diminished. Oh, what a great way to add some drama to this etude. So we're starting in 3rd and a half-ish position, right, if you want to call it that. First finger's on the C sharp, and we're just building minor thirds. Walking to that B flat. And now watch what we do here. That's a D major arpeggio. Oop. Gotta hit the right note there. F sharp. So we go D major, G minor. So 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, back and forth a whole bunch of times in minor until we finally land on this D. So it really doesn't feel finished. We have a statement here, but it doesn't feel like it has ended. Instead, we wind up here, which becomes the 3rd of our new key, which is going to be B flat major. Right? We make the same statement with this motive, where we kind of bounce around the arpeggio a little bit and then play the scale. You can tell from listening to it that it is definitely B flat major. Nice and bright and happy. So we've gone from G minor. We've taken that D, we've turned it into the 3rd. And we're going to bounce around now in the key of B flat major for a moment. Same kind of stuff. So now instead of going down with this idea, we're taking that motivic material and moving it up. We're ascending in 2 different scales with those various voices. So try to complete those scales as you play. Starting in measure 27, the upper voice has gone from G to A. It's going to continue to B flat, and then C, and even it's going to end on D. So find these scale pieces. The lower voice is going to be similar, starting in 27. We end on C. We end on D. We end on E flat. We end on F, and then we're going to bring it down and really hammer home on that F there. So find these 2 voices and have a conversation with them again. This is starting halfway through measure 26. And now, oh, this is great. First of all, on that low F there, really make sure that you get a good, solid flat hair contact with that and get that note to really resonate through. Because we don't have bass notes again for over 2 measures, almost 2 measures. Move all the way to the tip because you're going to need it. Change bow directions. This is the only measure in this whole thing, I'm confirming that by glancing right now, that does not utilize the rhythm that we established in the first 2 measures. So here at 33, we have these long-running 16th notes. The only thing that's different, it's going to transition us into kind of this almost development section, if you wanted to look at this almost in sonata allegro form. flats for a key signature of 1 sharp here. Make sure they all come out very, very clearly. We can see we're kind of playing with that 8th note idea. Then we take it, we move it up a little bit. Even a little higher in measure 39. And we're going to repeat that for some drama in 41. Bring it a little higher, and then we're going to end this little section. Now, fingering here, you can do a couple different things. There's nothing marked, but I found that if you do it in 3rd position to a 3, 2, up, diminished again, or you can do it all in 1st position with the open string. So starting at 43. Important here that we get this extension to the C sharp, E flat, C sharp again, and then here we go, diminished. Ooh, that's not the right bowing. Sorry, so it's gonna be down, down here, up. And now we have kind of like what we had before, but now with a low D pedal almost. D major arpeggio. G minor arpeggio. G major. G minor. And that C natural we just played is super important because that is the 7 of this D, so it's going to really give it that dominant sound. Listen for that again. We're going to continue almost in a scale-like fashion again here. Ooh yeah, look out, in measure 50, we're going to have the E flat from the first part of the measure, F sharp from the key signature, to that E flat again. So we have an augmented 2nd. And then we go right back. This is kind of like the recap. Back to G major. Ah, we've had all this before, right? We've had all this music before. Yeah. Yeah, you're probably going to want to pop it to 3rd position for that in measure 56. Yep, that's C natural, low open C. We haven't had that one yet. Listen how surprising that is. We don't expect that at all, but it's a nice character. F sharp. Here it is again. Wow. Bouncing around. So that whole section is just bouncing around just like we have been the entire piece so far, but we're staying put in one key. We're staying put in G major. And every time we hit those C naturals, oh, surprise your audience with that 4. We're not expecting that. We're not expecting that. Moving forward at measure 65. 65, we're kind of building up towards the end here. So we're taking the rhythmic idea from the very first measure and we're expanding it and we're going up the G major scale all the way up to a high G. Right there. Now we're going to play some arpeggios to the end. notes there. So starting at 68. Right? Pretty classic bass line to end a tune. And then we're just filling in the spaces between with descending arpeggios. Now, as you practice this, I highly recommend that you're always using a metronome and practice it very, very slowly. Start off ridiculously slow until your fingers have everything exactly in place, then start to push the speed up a little bit at a time. Never go beyond what you can control, otherwise it's just going to be wasted time. If you're flailing around and your bow is bouncing all over the place, you need to bring it back in, reel it in a little bit. Hopefully this walkthrough was helpful for you today. If you have other requests for Schroeder etudes that you want me to walk through, talk about the theory, talk about some of the techniques used, please leave it in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Happy practicing.